What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today's Sea of Thieves. For this video, I have to get a little bit more philosophical because this is a multiplayer game that's really kind of unique. For the most part, there's nothing really in it except for the adventures you can make. There are no upgrades, the battles are basically just the things you stumble onto, and most of the money honestly does nothing. However, after playing 20 hours of the final game and 20 hours of the beta, I've got some pretty interesting thoughts on it. As I always have to say up front when it comes to an always online experience, these are only my impressions on the game as it currently is. They're probably going to be rolling out tons of patches, and all of this could be completely deleted in 1 week. But as it stands, Sea of Thieves is very fun with friends. But alone, it can be rather painful. The general idea here is that we get to be pirates on the open ocean and kind of create our own little experience, going around trying to collect treasure, getting maps, and turning them in for all sorts of different loot. However, I feel like a lot of this stuff isn't quite complete. Now, the reason I say that is because I feel like a good game motivates you to improve. It makes you want to come back and keep playing. It's not just something that's supposed to be a playground, which is exactly what this feels like. This game only puts you in situations that can be entertaining without being entertaining itself, and I feel like that is a very important distinction to make. Let's talk about the general gameplay first, because really there's only one main thing you do, and that's a series of voyages. These are basically quests in the game. When you go to the big pirate outposts, you can go up to different vendors to take on different missions that are basically bounty hunts, which are taking on super powerful skeletons, treasure hunts where you're getting maps and trying to explore different abandoned islands, and merchant vessels. That's where you basically are getting a series of things that you have to collect and bring back for a huge amount of money. Now, all of these have their own individual elements to them, but essentially they work the same way. As an example, let's look at one of the more complex treasure hunts I did. So typically, what happens is this. You're given a scrap of the map, a picture of a single island. Then you go over to this. Underneath in your ship, you have a humongous world map that shows you everything on the sea. By going here, you can compare the shape of the island to the different things on the map and figure out where you need to go. Here's the thing, you can't really do this by yourself. While you can go under the deck and even mark your destination, you are going to need everybody's help in order to sail this massive vessel. The number one key factor of this game is teamwork. The only way to survive and try and get any sort of gold is to work together. So what you do is, as soon as your destination is picked out, each person needs to have their own job. Typically, you have one person up on the crow's nest to try and watch out to make sure you don't bump into rocks, one person steering, and one person trying to raise and lower the sails, and also tilt them so you can be perfectly into the wind. Each of these jobs on their own is pretty simple, but you need to constantly communicate. Each person's job is actually only able to do a small part of the overall work. If you're on top of the crow's nest, if you're not perpetually calling out different things that you might run into, well, you're probably going to sink. If you're trying to tilt the sails and at some point you're not actually doing your job right, you'll lose all speed or accidentally go into the wind and basically come to a standstill. And if you're steering, you can't see where you're going. With these masts all the way down, you're completely blind, so only by communicating with each of your other crewmates do you really know what to do. What we have here is definitely a game that absolutely requires voice chat. It is impossible to play without it. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I really respect the heavy social aspect to this. The problem is, the game allows you to play by yourself if you want, but this is really the worst way to do it. As an experiment, I went around on a solo vessel just to try and see what it was like, and it is downright awful. I feel like when you're alone, you really begin to see only the flaws of Sea of Thieves. This is a game that gives you a big ocean and a lot of places to go, but not a lot of reasons to go there. Collecting loot and digging up treasure chests is fun, but at the end of the day, the payoff isn't massive. You should only be playing this if you're going to try and go into it looking to have just random fun and stumble on your own little stories. So going back to that original voyage I was talking about, you can see that we're now climbing across the sea, going full speed trying to figure out our destination. When we arrive there, this is when you get out the map and really look at each of the details as closely as possible. There's a little red X showing where you need to dig. By going around and using your compass, you need to figure out the exact spot. Once you do, everybody gets out your shovels, digs it up, and grabs the booty. This is where the game really gets the most entertaining in my opinion, because having loot is really only half the battle. Taking it back to your boat and returning to an outpost to get paid is really vital, but along the way, you can get sunk. At any time while out on the ocean, you can run into other players. It seems like the way this works is Microsoft has giant servers and each person is technically playing by themselves. Your other crewmates are on your server, and if you get within close proximity of another player, they'll suddenly pop into your server. Because if you think about it, if we were all playing on one giant server, you would be running into thousands of ships non-stop. However, I only seem to run into maybe 1 or 2 person per map. The ship-to-ship battles in this game are endlessly hilarious because they are just so goofy. The ships that we have are really not that well equipped. You do have these giant cannons, but actually using them is a little bit sloppy. And I like that. It's definitely purposeful that your cannon is quite difficult to use. Look at this right here. I feel like it is the perfect showing of just how freaking silly this game can be. So we were cruising along at night and we turned off all of our lanterns to make sure we were basically invisible for anybody just looking for lights on the horizon, when suddenly we basically bumped into this guy. Somebody was sailing by themselves, and by getting out my giant periscope, I could actually see that he had new loot on his craft. So I figured, alright, if you sink this guy, all their treasure chests float up to the surface. So we decided to cruise up next to him and just start unleashing everything. We dropped anchor, swerved to the side, and unleashed every single cannonball we could until eventually we punctured his ship. Now, when you have damage to your vessel, you are able to repair it by using wooden boards and using your bucket to take water out. With that being said, by yourself, it is much harder to do that, so he couldn't really stop us. We sank him, grabbed his loot, but instead of him just dying or sinking to the bottom of the ocean or getting eaten by sharks, he swam up onto our boat, and before we could kill him, he actually started talking to us. With proximity chat, he started begging us, going, no, don't kill me, please, you can take my treasure chests, just drop me off on a nearby island, I promise I'll be good. So me and all my crewmates discussed it, and we figured, you know what, this guy honestly seems pretty cool, he's letting us take our treasure chests, he's not any trouble. Alright, let's do it. So we start sailing along looking for a place to drop him off, and suddenly we realize maybe that's not for the best. Maybe we should just recruit him. So we go up and approach him and said, alright, look Ginny, you seem like a cool guy. If you walk the plank and don't get immediately eaten by a sea creature, we'll let you become part of our crew officially. So he agrees, jumps off the ship, doesn't get eaten by a shark, and we recruited him. We ended up sailing around with this guy for hours as our new lookout, and it was so extremely fun. It was so goofy to have this guy that started out as our absolute enemy, somebody that we were basically willing to cut his throat just for gold, and now he's a friend. I literally added him on Xbox Live just because it was such a fun experience. Times like this are very thrilling, but you'll notice something. I'm not talking about the gameplay per se. I'm really talking about the fact that you can create fun situations. Sea of Thieves is about making your own stories. In that way, it is fantastic. It is a sandbox that is made to be something unique. However, I do think that it has one giant problem. The developers have been very adamant about the fact that they never want you to ever be able to upgrade or change your character. This is it. Your character as he starts on the first island is as cool as he's ever going to get. You're never going to get new skills, new tools, or really anything to change him up. You can't dig faster, you can't shoot harder, you can't upgrade the cannons on your boat. The only thing you can do in this game with your millions of dollars is upgrade small stuff, like putting on a different t-shirt or making it where your shovel is gold like I did. When it comes to motivation, the only thing that keeps you playing is the idea that you keep getting slightly funner quests in general. By doing specific quests for a particular faction, it does level up and give you access to better bounties and better merchant missions. However, I still feel like this is very lacking. I want something that forces me to stay in this world, something that makes me want to feel like I am actually doing something, that the experience will change over time, but purposefully, that's not happening. Never will I ever be able to jump off my ship and stab a kraken with a 1,000,000 damage dagger and instantly take him out. I am always going to do 1 damage per shot. That is something that just feels like a giant missed opportunity, and something that personally worries me a lot. Sea of Thieves, as it currently stands, does have a thriving community. In fact, so many people are trying to log in, it keeps crashing the game, which makes playing it impossible since this is online only. I do worry that as soon as people begin to quit, the entire game will collapse. The only reason that people are playing it right now is because it's fun, interesting, and new. But as soon as that begins to wear off, because there isn't anything making you stronger and come back, I think that the entire game could go under within a month. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Sea of Thieves on the Xbox One and PC a 7 out of 10. Someone asked me a specific question that I want to answer here at the end, and they said, if I happen to have $500 laying around and I wanted to get a new console and this game, is it a good choice? And I would say yes, if all of your friends are going to join you. This game will make some great moments that you and your friends will be talking about for years. But if you're playing by yourself, you're literally going to be sitting in a boat in the middle of the ocean waiting for the action. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. This has been DreamcastGuy with another review. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I killed so many freaking skeletons for this video. Oh man, I'm gonna get a pirate's curse, I swear. Oh, hi. I'm just working on the next video. If you want to see what it is, go ahead and click this button and you can subscribe. Also, if you click these video links, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. Now I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for you to subscribe. Oh, I guess I could put on these giant glasses. I literally found these on a roller coaster.